The Data Classification and Handling Policy training material is meant to provide an overview of the recently approved Data Classification and Handling Policy and to make Bergen Community College employees aware of their responsibility while handling information that is confidential and sensitive in nature. The purpose of this policy is to establish specific requirements for the proper classification and handling of sensitive and confidential information by members of the Bergen Community College community in order to ensure that the college maintains strict confidentiality in compliance with applicable requirements and regulations of the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974 as amended, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and other applicable federal and state privacy laws. Additionally, this policy is intended to help members of the college community determine what information can be disclosed to non-employees and how, as well as the relative sensitivity of information that should not be disclosed within or outside of Bergen Community College without proper authorization. This policy pertains to the security and privacy of all non-public information, including student information, employee information, constituent information, and general college information. The information covered in this policy includes, but is not limited to, information that is either stored or shared via any means. This includes electronic information, information on paper, and information shared orally or visually, such as telephone and video conferencing. All Bergen Community College information that is stored, processed, or transmitted by any means shall be classified into one of 4 levels of sensitivity: public, internal, confidential, and private. The sensitivity classification identifies information in terms of what it is and how access, processing, communications, and storage must be controlled. If more than one sensitivity level could apply to the information, the highest level, most restrictive, should be selected. Public information is information that has been published on public forums, like the college's website, thus may be freely distributed. The disclosure, unauthorized access, or unauthorized use of public information would not adversely impact the college, its students or staff, the state, and/or public. Accordingly, information made public in official college publications or on the public-facing Bergen Community College website may be released without special authorization. Some examples of public information are Board of Trustees action and meeting minutes, course catalogs, course syllabi, board-approved policies. Handling of public information. There are no specific restrictions on the distribution or handling of public information, although college personnel must respect all copyright, trademark, and intellectual property rights of any data they distribute. Internal information is information that is available to college employees with a legitimate educational or business interest in them to be used for official purposes, but would not be released to the public unless requested pursuant to and authorized by Bergen Community College business practices consistent with applicable law. The disclosure, unauthorized access, or unauthorized use of internal information would have a limited adverse impact on the college, the state, and/or the public. Examples of internal information include, but are not limited to, department project status reports, unit budgets, purchase orders, bid packages, RFP responses. Internal information is considered non-public and should be protected from unnecessary exposure or transmission to parties outside of the college. Common sense precautions should be taken while sharing such information. Access to internal information should be limited to Bergen Community College employees or non-employees with signed non-disclosure agreements who have a legitimate business or academic need to know. Distribution within the college can be through standard interoffice mail, campus email, password-protected websites, or campus file-sharing repositories. Distribution outside the college should be through encrypted email, password-protected files, password-protected website to retrieve encrypted files, secure electronic file transmissions with file encryption. Hard copy must be stored in a physically secure area, like a locked file cabinet. Information may only be stored electronically on college-owned and maintained computers or on a remote site such as a cloud storage provider that is under contract with the college for such services. Regardless of physical storage location, it is recommended that files containing information classified as internal be stored in an encrypted format. Acceptable forms of encryption are password-protected files, like Microsoft Office password protection, or a public-private key algorithm such as PGP or GNU-PG. To dispose of information, hard copy should be shredded. Electronic data should be expunged and cleared. Penalty for a deliberate or inadvertent disclosure is up to and including termination of employment, possible civil and/or criminal prosecution. Confidential information is information of a sensitive nature that is available only to designated personnel or third parties with a legitimate business or educational interest in them. The disclosure, unauthorized access, or unauthorized use of confidential information would have a significant adverse impact on the college, the state, and/or the public. Confidential information is information that is not available to the public under all applicable state and federal laws, including but not limited to OPRA, the Family Educational Right to Privacy Act, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Examples of confidential information include, but are not limited to, credit card numbers, unlisted telephone numbers, and driver's license numbers, grievances filed, collective bargaining negotiations, student records, disciplinary proceedings, and employee records. Confidential information should be protected to prevent unauthorized access or exposure. Only authorized employees should have access to this information. Sharing of this information should only happen when authorized and through a secure medium, should not be sent through interoffice mail. Only Bergen Community College employees whose job functions require them to have and are approved by their supervisor to have access, and college vendors or consultants who have executed non-disclosure agreements with the college. Distribution within Bergen Community College should be through direct delivery, signature required, envelope stamped confidential. Electronic files must be encrypted or be password protected at the application level. The encrypted password-protected files can then be sent via email and/or secure electronic file transmission. Distribution outside of Bergen Community College should be through direct delivery, signature required, approved private carriers. Electronic files must be encrypted or be password-protected at the application level. The encrypted password-protected files can then be sent via email and/or secure electronic file transmission. Third parties who are handling and/or storing confidential information must agree to abide by the college's policies for safeguarding such information. Storage of hard copies must be limited to the minimum number required. Hard copies must be stored in a secure location at all times. Unless there is a critical business need, no portion of confidential information should be stored locally on employee desktop or laptop computers. Confidential information may be stored on a college-owned file server, central computing server, or on a remote site such as a cloud storage provider that is under contract with the college for such services. Regardless of the physical storage location, confidential files must be stored in an encrypted format. All hard copy must be cross-cut shredded and disposed of in specially marked disposal bins on Bergen Community College premises. Electronic data should be expunged, cleared, to ensure that portions of the original data cannot be reconstructed from the hard drive or other electronic storage medium. Penalty for deliberate or inadvertent disclosure is up to and including termination of employment, possible civil and/or criminal prosecution. Private information is all personally identifiable information pertaining to individuals that is protected by federal or state law shall be private. The disclosure, unauthorized access, or unauthorized use of private information would have a significant adverse effect on the college, the state, and the individuals whose information was disclosed. Exposure of certain private information may require the college to report such exposure to various federal and state agencies and/or financial institutions, as well as the individuals whose information was exposed. Examples of private information include, but are not limited to, Social Security numbers, health information, student directory information that a student has requested not to be disclosed, IDs, usernames, and other account names combined with unencrypted password string and/or birth dates. Private information has the highest level of sensitivity and represents the most risk to college, the state, and individuals should such information be accessed or exposed to unauthorized parties. Therefore, college employees who handle private information or who use systems that store, transmit, or manipulate private data are required to maintain the privacy of such information, data, at all times. Access to private information should be limited to Bergen Community College employees whose job functions require them to have and are approved by their supervisors to have access, and college vendors or consultants who have executed non-disclosure agreements with the college. Distribution within Bergen Community College should be delivered direct signature required, envelope stamped private. Electronic files must be encrypted or password protected. The encrypted password-protected files can then be stored on a central IT file server and access granted to authorized individuals using Active Directory group share permissions. Private information should not be sent via email attachment unless there is no other viable transmission method, and then only if the email message and any attachments are encrypted per recipient. Distribution outside of Bergen Community College should be delivered direct signature through approved private carriers. Electronic files must be encrypted before transmission to an authorized entity outside the college. File transmission of encrypted data should occur using a secure protocol. Private information should not be sent via email attachment unless there is no other viable transmission method, and then only if the email message and any attachments are encrypted per recipient. Password protecting a file at the application level, PDF or Word document, is not sufficient protection for private information. Hard copies must be limited to the minimum number required. Hard copies must be stored in a secure location at all times. No private information may be stored locally on employee desktop or laptop computers, tablet, phone, or any non-college device. Instead, private information must be stored on a college-owned system and must be stored in an encrypted format. All hard copy must be cross-cut shredded and disposed of in specially marked disposal bins on Bergen Community College premises. Electronic data should be expunged and cleared to ensure that portions of the original data cannot be reconstructed from the hard drive or other electronic storage medium. Penalty for deliberate or inadvertent disclosure, up to and including termination of employment, possible civil and/or criminal prosecution. Best practices for protecting information. All employees and users of network computing devices on Bergen's network are responsible for protecting the college's information because their machines provide potential gateway to private information stored elsewhere on the network. Therefore, whether or not they deal directly with sensitive college information, employees should follow best practices to reduce risk of unauthorized disclosure of the college's information. Familiarize yourself with all college computing and security policies and social media policy, and understand their implications for the information for which you are responsible. Immediately advise your supervisor of any suspicious activity on your computer or a suspected information system security compromise and report the event to the college help desk for follow-up action. Do not collect confidential or private information with web forms that are not secured via HTTPS connection with a valid SSL certificate. Do not publish sensitive information to unsecured websites. All sensitive information on websites must be encrypted and password protected. Be mindful of how you are sharing or transmitting sensitive information across the network. Do not share sensitive information via unencrypted, unsigned email. Unencrypted and unsigned email is not secure. It can be forged, and it does not afford privacy. Information that is categorized as confidential or private shall not be stored on a personal laptop, desktop, tablet, phone, or other end-user device. Confidential and private information should only be stored on centrally managed IT servers or on a cloud service provider with whom the college has contractual relationship for such service. Employ passwords that comply with the college's password management policy. Secure your passwords and restrict access to them. Passwords written on a post-it note in a work area, placed under a keyboard, or stored in an unlocked desk drawer are not safe from unauthorized access. Never share your passwords or accounts. Encrypt or password protect sensitive files. Use IT security-approved encryption methods only.